now to see Ian Wilker, who's very much involved in the project which the fundraising in the village is for at the moment. So Ian, tell us what it is that you're doing.
Well, we're hoping to restore the flow of the Westbury Brook down through the hamlet. This was cut off in or around 1870 when the Cinderford Waterworks was built at Green Bottom. And initially there was a steam pumping station there. Eventually in the 1920s it was converted to electricity. One of the pumps is still in the pumping station, which is now used as a hatchery for salmon fry for the River Wye. When the waterworks was built in 1870, the original course of the Westbury Brook was altered. And the main residual flow, once the inhabitants of Cinderford had had their bit out of it, was redirected towards Gun Mills, presumably as a compensation measure. That meant that the flow of the brook down from the old mine workings down through Green Bottom was almost virtually completely cut off. And until early this year, the only flow that ever came down there was if the old leat, which had been constructed, breached, which happens about once every 5 years, or if it rained very, very heavily, and then we got a slight trickle.
Well, we've just walked across the road from your house to the site of the old stream, and it's coming down there sort of fairly well now, isn't it?
It is. What's happened is that the whole of Green Bottom lies on top of a sandstone aquifer. The aquifer, like many aquifers around this part of the country, has, for the first time in many years, been fully recharged.
So what is an aquifer then?
An aquifer is, in this case, is sandstone, and the sandstone is almost like a gigantic underground sponge. The water seeps through into it and is held because usually there's an impermeable layer underneath the sandstone. And when the level in the sandstone rises, it issues as springs. And there used to be a spring here in Green Bottom, but all the way down the road here, as you go down towards Flaxley, you'll find springs coming out the side of the road. And in fact, many people stop just below Green Bottom here before you get to the junction between Mitcheldean and Flaxley. And they actually come regularly to collect drinking water at one of the springs.
Goodness. So how have you got it flowing down here?
Well, what's happened is that, as I say, the aquifer is recharged, and that combined with a slight change in which the way the water is fed through the breeding tanks in the pumping station has meant that an old drainage channel has reopened itself, and we're now getting part of the flow coming back here naturally.
But presumably, though, everything had got overgrown.
Yes,
so how much work have you had to do to clear it all out?
Well, what we've done, if we turn around, look on the other side of the road, there's an area here of a third of an acre, something like that, which until last year was completely overgrown with bracken and brambles and all sorts of rubbish. And in fact, the lump we can see in front of us was the original hamlet dumping ground. We've got the grass growing now. This will be our hamlet green. One of our neighbours here cuts this every week and keeps it tidy. And what we're going to do is to have the stream here running into two ponds, a high one and a low one, with a reed bed area downstream before the residue flow goes on to rejoin the Westbury Brook course. It's taken us, I suppose, 6 months of negotiation with the Forestry Commission, the Environment Agency, to put together all the necessary permissions and consents.
So it's not just a case of you think, oh, let's just open this up again and let's make a nice pond here.
No,
you can't
it isn't.
You can't just do that, can you?
Oh, no, you can't. I mean, first of all, this land belongs to the Forestry Commission, and their consent was essential. The consent of the commercial arm of the fishery association, the fish hatchery, was necessary as well, because we are tapping into their water supply. And we had to get consent of the Environment Agency because they monitor all things to do with water supply and the passage of water.
Yeah.
And they will make sure that whatever we do is done properly. And not only is done properly, but is maintained thereafter, and that's very important.
There's a beautiful backdrop there, isn't there? A bank of ferns there with foxgloves growing down the bank. I mean, it is lovely. And the sounds in the background, the cock crowing, and there are geese as well. I mean, it is just lovely here.
Yes, it is usually very, very quiet and very peaceful. We're on a loop off the main road between Little Dean and Mitchell Dean, and until last year when we asked the County Council to put up signs because we were fed up of people losing their way. Nobody really knew where it was. I mean, we had people who lived in the forest all their life, and they said they never knew this place existed.
We went to the top of your garden a little bit earlier on, and you have the most fantastic views, don't you, out across the
Yes,
hill?
it is rather nice. When we came to look at this house 6 years ago, we walked up that hill and I said to her, well, we're going to buy this. I don't care what the house is like, we're going to buy this. It is really a very attractive place. And there's no traffic noise here. The only traffic noise is when the dust cart comes on a Thursday.
So are there any disadvantages then in living in such a small place?
Well, yes, I mean...
Make us all feel a bit better, Ian, so that you haven't got paradise completely here.
No, we haven't. Well, you do need transport. We only have one bus which runs 1 day a week, goes into Gloucester, comes back again, and that's it.
Now, we're just coming down towards the main road again now, aren't we?
Yes.
Towards the edge of the village. And there's quite an area here which looks as if it hasn't been touched for years and years and years. Lots of nettles and rather overgrown.
Yes. I suppose this was the area where the stream course finished its fairly precipitous course down through the village, because you rise quite steeply through the hamlet. And this would be the area where all the silt settled out before it passed down into the course, a rather deep course, which runs then more steeply down into Flaxley, where it joins the main Westbury Brook, which then goes on into Westbury on Severn, and of course feeds on the way the water gardens at Westbury Court. But this area here, I suppose about half an acre, the Forestry Commission have said that they would like us to consider doing a scheme here to convert this into a wetland area. But this will mean probably a little bit more water being brought down from the waterworks than we intend to bring at the moment. And of course, it'll be a fairly major commitment to us, because creating an area like this is one thing, it's then another thing to maintain it thereafter. We can usually muster anything up to 12 people on a working party. So far we've done quite well, but we will have to address this issue of ongoing maintenance. You've got to organise it properly. And I think this is what the people who we've applied to grants for will be looking for: the Millennium Festival grant, the Forest of Dean, District Council and so on. It's not just doing the initial work, it's thinking about the consequences there afterwards.